Start recording now. All right, so welcome everybody to March, which is crazy. We're getting close to spring, heartworm season, and then it'll be summer, and then it'll be Christmas again before we all know it. So, thanks for coming out tonight. We have a few things to go through, so might as well get started. We always talk about the schedule at least for a little bit. As I literally already said, can you believe it's March? Spring's around the corner. I'm sure you've noticed that we've made some adjustments to the shifts that are available based on call volume, as well as last year's stats. That's the nice thing is we do have data from the previous year, so we're able to kind of look at what we had last year and then make projections. Right? It's never going to be perfect, but we are changing things as we go. The April schedule will be out soon, so stay tuned. I will send a message at the beginning of the week and then the day of it going out and being published. And then you guys will have a little bit of time, at least 24 hours, to see the schedule and claim. I want to thank everybody who has been putting in their unavailability, even if you don't have a recurring shift or you're not full time. It is super helpful for us to be able to look at a weekend in advance and be like, oh, we're missing a whole bunch of people. We've got holidays coming up, conferences. Please continue to put them in. And just remember that there is a minimum monthly requirement of 12 hours a month of shifts for each RVT. So if you can at least meet the minimum, I mean, obviously, go nuts, take as much as you can, but definitely the unavailability has been super helpful for us at planning kind of ahead. And Amy, this is you.
Hi, everyone. Just a reminder that when you're scheduled for a 5-hour shift, that you're required to take a 30-minute meal break. If you're scheduled for a 10-hour shift, you're required to take two 30-minute meal breaks. Please clock in and out of Sling for these breaks. These breaks, unfortunately, aren't optional. I know that sometimes timing is difficult for taking them, but we do need to coordinate to take them. This is mandated by the Ministry of Labor, and these are rules that we have to follow. So if you can make sure to coordinate when you start your 5-hour shifts with your coworkers for your meal break, that would be great.
Thanks, Amy. Nancy, did you want to have a quick chat about this?
Sunday we spring forward, so please remember to change your clocks. And on another note, T4s did go out. If you have not been able to access your T4 in Sage, please reach out to me as soon as possible. David is only in the office 2 days a week, Tuesdays and usually Fridays, and he's the only one that has access to do this. So if you're still having issues, please reach out to me. I do know that you should be trying to download it on a computer, not on your cell phone. That has caused issues. So if you see it there but you can't download it, that may be the potential problem. T2200s will be going out soon. You don't actually need them if you're in the process of doing your tax returns currently. You don't actually need to physically have that form, but we will be getting them out to you shortly. And I believe your T4 should be on your CRA account as well. So if anybody has any questions, just reach out to me and let me know for sure. But everybody should have access to their forms now.
And
All
hand
right,
over to Lindsay now.
that's me. Um, all right, so we had a number of votes put in this month, but actually no clear winner. So we are going to do a poll again to see who everyone votes for. So there's going to be three options. So Van Isles Veterinary Hospital, they're out in BC. They took a blocked cat for us when they definitely didn't have to, so very appreciated. Christie Street Animal Hospital. I kind of put in this vote, and so did Sarah. And I wrote dealing with Sarah being a pain in the butt because she had called them, I think, like 5 or 6 times in a row, and they were very lovely every time. And then lastly is North Peace Veterinary Clinic, who took a paralyzed dog who was a non-client. So again, didn't have to take them, but did. So I'll make the poll available to everyone so we can vote up until the end of the meeting there. All right, I guess this is me as well. So we are starting something new, and we hope that you all enjoy it and get a little excited about it. So we did realize that there might be a need for something like this, as we're not working in a clinic together. So we don't always get those moments where we can kind of step aside with a staff member and talk about maybe a difficult call or a difficult client, or have like those moments of being able to kind of decompress as a team. So we've put together what we call smart vent sessions. So they'll happen every Thursday between 7 and 7:30, where two members of the admin or management team will hang out in the patio for the half hour. Anyone and everyone is welcome to come and just chat about bad calls, or even if you're just having a bad week in your general life, we're just there to chat and just be there for you. Nothing's going to be recorded or notes taken or anything. We're just there to like basically hang out if you were going to have coffee with a staff member. So hopefully we see some of you there. It does start tomorrow, and I think me and Sarah are going to be the ones hanging out in the patio for you. So hopefully you like us enough to come hang out. And I think that's it for me.
You can't, Mike, but everybody else can. Um, so I just want to give a quick reminder for shift duty priority. Um, with things kind of picking up and then being a little slower here and there, it can kind of be a little difficult to kind of decide what really needs to be taken care of first, and just always go back to this list. So if there are high priority tasks but there's an ACA on shift, maybe, and no calls coming in, maybe just check with the ACA first. If they're swamped, which it very often happens they can be, then yeah, we should take that task. But if there are incoming calls, regular priority tasks, they can wait a little bit. Obviously, if a DVM says, oops, I meant to make that high for so and so, I mean, that's a little different. But we want to make sure that the RVTs are answering calls, because ACAs can't. So you guys can both do tasks, but RVTs are the only ones that can answer calls. So we just want to make sure that we're always, taking those high priority tasks if needed, but definitely the incoming calls should be the first thing that you guys are doing. Okay. Mike, did you want to talk about this one, or do you want me to? I know it's kind of a joint effort on our parts.
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I don't mind taking it. That's no problem. I do just on shift duty priority. I just want to comment and just make sure everybody's aware that we're going to be doing this as well. So it can be a little bit of a sensitive thing to bring up sometimes too, just about what we're doing on shift. And I know we've brought it up in the past before, but we kind of always run into this challenge where when you're working remote, the team, like SmartVet as a whole, it doesn't really necessarily have a good sense of what people are doing on their shifts, and if they're being productive without having something to show for it. And there's this balance between trusting the staff to do what they're supposed to, and just also needing to make sure that we're working effectively, and making sure that the whole team is bearing the brunt of the work, and sharing that the burden of all work. I think that's important too, and not letting others down. There have been comments here and there that we've maybe been seeing, we don't think certain individuals are always staying busy, or things like that. We don't feel that others maybe are doing as much as they could be doing on a shift. And so I just want everyone to be aware that, and we had done this in the past, and we did kind of let it slide. And in part, that's because we don't want to be a micromanagement company, but I think it's just going to keep coming back up. And ultimately we need to just adopt some form of, we're watching for metrics and how busy we're staying and what we're accomplishing. So just want everybody to be aware that we are going to be developing some form of system where we can essentially look at how many tasks people are completing or calls they're answering, time on phones. We're going to be looking at stats again, and we're going to try to structure that a little better than we have in the past, just to ensure that, there's always this risk. And again, I don't think anybody here would take advantage of it, but there's always this risk that you take someone on and they might just sit there on their shift because we don't really know any better. And I'm not suggesting anybody's doing that, but it's just how do we as a company make sure that that's not happening, right? So just something to be aware of. We haven't really wanted to do it much more than we are, because of, it can be a sensitive thing, and we don't want to look like we're micromanaging or don't trust our employees. But it keeps coming back, and so I think we just need to implement some sort of structured format. So that's all I want to say on that, just to be aware of it. We're going to start looking a little bit more heavily into all of that as we move forward. Cool. I don't know if anybody said anything. Sarah, you'll let me know if something in the chat came up that I should address. I don't know if.
Yeah, Melissa just made an interesting comment. She said that she finds when she works with the same staff each shift, it's easier to keep track and kind of know what everybody's doing. When I pop on a different shift, I feel lost sometimes. So that's an interesting point. I don't know if maybe just kind of reaching out to the shift lead to kind of see where things have been at, like, hey, how's it been going? How's everybody doing? I don't know if that would be helpful, like doing like a mini rounds to kind of familiarize yourself with everybody and what they've been doing. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts.
Yeah, if you guys have any thoughts, put them in the chat. I think just also being clear with the team what you're working on and what you're doing is always helpful. Yeah. Millie, I hope your son's okay, by the way. Okay. Yeah. If you
I don't
guys,
know. Sorry, I just have a quick input. I don't know if it's just me or if it would be helpful for anybody. I know when I'm on shift and there's no calls and I check, tasks and do tasks or anything like that, I jump on to do like concert reviews, and sometimes I just get into it in the system, and I'm just going. I completely forget to check the tasks again, like 2 or 3 minutes later, and so I don't know if it would be beneficial, or if it's just for me. Then I can just try and set myself a reminder, like maybe a timer. But if a shift lead, they see tasks to build them up or something's coming in task wise, they can maybe like tag in spots. So you get a ping and you're like, oh yeah, there's also other things that I got to be doing. Because I just get in a rhythm of doing them until the phone starts ringing, and then I hop back on the phone. And then sometimes I go there and I'm like, oh, there's like 2 tasks are there. And so I don't know if it's just me or if anybody else finds that happens sometimes. So sorry if I haven't been hopping on those.
yeah, I think that's a good point. To our shift leads, don't hesitate to say there's something in queue, and to the rest of the team, please don't take offense if a shift lead is staying on top of those things. I think it's good to be vocal about those things, and that might help.
Yeah, or if they say there's a self-book triage, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to check those as well. If there wasn't any before I started doing the
Yeah, I think these comments that people are leaving here too help out a lot. Coming on shift and asking how things are going. There's also the channel. I don't know. I don't even know if it's still working. I haven't even seen it in some time, but there's also that channel, I believe, that has smart vet events, and it says like if a case is in queue or a task is created. I'm sure many of you have, if it is still going, I've muted it, so I don't even get the notifications anymore. But Sarah, is that still, it still is a thing, right? It's still going?
The only thing that's missing from it now is the number of consults and tasks in queue, like the number. But it does say it every time one is self-booked, one is booked by us, and then anytime a task comes through. And I know there are a few RVTs who actually do use it on shift. I know that for sure.
Okay, yeah, and Sabina, that might help you too. Like just having you mute like at the start of your shift, just unmute that channel, and you'll get a notification when tasks are created.
What's the name of the channel again?
It's called Smart Vet Events, and actually, I'm looking at it right now. There's 39 people in the channel. Maybe Sarah, we just need to do a check that everybody's being added to that channel. Sabina, you're in there, so you should have it.
When I onboard, I do add people, but I will definitely go through manually and check.
Yeah, unless like 39 is the right number. Maybe it is.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and to your point there, Melissa, I think that might just be related to like your computer or something like that. Sometimes, I don't know, it's going to vary by hardware. I'd say if you have Slack open, that's probably your best bet. Jackie's on the channel, so if you add Jackie in, yeah, having that channel on shift, I think is going to be helpful. Okay, I think we can move on to the next one, which is just talking a little bit about wait times. So this is a bit of a strange one. It might seem a little nitpicky.
We don't know.
Oh, sorry. Hello. Oh, maybe that was unintentional. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about the word wait time, or the words wait time. Sometimes it can feel like it has a bit of a negative connotation. It seems like a small thing, but I just wanted to explore. We did this with sometimes testing new things has helped a lot. For instance, the new process for getting clients into video, we got a lot of really positive feedback, and that was just supposed to be like, hey, let's test this out and see how it's going. I think this is another one of those examples where we can try to improve the way that we're talking about wait times. So actually, Sarah, do you mind taking over? Sharon's just calling me right now. She's saying I need to answer.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm just gonna answer this call.
Oh, that's fine. I wrote the slide. It's all good. So Mike and I kind of went back and forth on some wording that didn't feel really weird because wait time just sounds like a very fluent thing that we can say. So we decided to change it to DVM availability. So I put in here a way that you can say it, and this is how I've sent a message when I'm triaging, like if I'm doing a triage message. Um, Essentially, we anticipate a veterinarian will be available for you and Fluffy in approximately 1 to 2 hours. So you're still giving a wait time, quote unquote, but you're not telling the client they're going to be waiting. You're going to tell them that we estimate a veterinarian will be available for them in X amount of time. When I'm quoting it on a call, I'll say, okay, it looks like our veterinarian, we have a we sorry, see, this is why it's a work in progress. As I will say, and according to my portal right now, it looks like we're anticipating a veterinarian to be available for you in about 1 to 2 hours. So it's similar wording. We're just trying to get rid of the word wait time, just because, as Mike was saying before he had to go, is there can be negative connotations, and they're waiting, but waiting makes it sound like they're standing around and waiting. So I've updated the wait time article. It now says DVM availability, and the wait time tool in the portal will eventually change. Mike just has to push an update. But this is kind of a work in progress. So if you find some other wordings that you think sound really smooth and that you like, please send them to me. I'm happy to add more options to the article. This was the smoothest one that I could find, and most clients are like, "Oh, okay." Like there's no confusion or anything like that. If that helps.
Cool. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that, but we'll see if it helps. Sorry, Sarah, I just kind of threw you in there.
Like I said, I wrote it. All good.
Yeah. No, awesome. Cool. Yeah, if anybody's got any comments, I think maybe it'll help a little bit. Cool. Go ahead, Sarah. I think the next one's you, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to remind everybody that why we can't give advice. We like to do this every once in a while. Sharon's not here tonight. She would have normally done this one, but we just like to remind everybody kind of the importance of RVTs on the RVT line, but the fact that we have to have a VCPR. So most of you work in practice. Mrs. Smith calls and she asks if she can give another dose of clindamycin because he threw one up. Sure, you can. You check with your vet, everything's fine. But the difference is we don't have an existing VCPR with any of these clients, right? We have our own accredited facility in Ontario. BC is a little different. We're just going to talk about Ontario to make things simple. So, because we don't have that VCPR yet, RVTs cannot legally dispense advice. And I'm always asked, well, is putting pressure on a wound advice? Is corn syrup on the lips advice? Those are life preserving measures while you get them to physical care, if that makes sense. So both of those are okay. Now, if you said, yeah, just put some pressure on it, you'll be fine, click. That's obviously not what you're going to do, and none of you would ever do that. So, but that's kind of the example I use to kind of differentiate that. However, remember, once the doctor has seen one of these patients, we have a VCPR. You, as RVTs, you have vast knowledge, vast experience. If a dog throws up a medication and you're comfortable saying, okay, well, that's possibly a side effect. Let me talk to the doctor. Like, that's okay. If the owner asks if they can give gabapentin and meloxicam together and you know that that's okay, it's okay. I would say still check in with your vet. I usually, if it's something I know I can answer, I'll just say, hey, Fluffy Jones owner just called. They said this happened. I said, probably should be okay, but I would call back if there was anything. And then just make sure you document it. We never want you guys to feel like we don't trust your knowledge. It's the legality of the regulatory body with telemedicine. Okay. Any questions? I feel like this is old hat for most of you, but it's always a good reminder. Sorry, I just wanted to drink. Another thing I want to talk about, something that comes up kind of off and on, is I can't transfer this patient. What do I do now? All right, this happens to all of us. And as you all know, our transfer criteria is constantly updating because new things pop up that we didn't think about. But we've designed it so that only true emergencies end up at our emergency hospitals and our on call partners. But sometimes a transfer simply cannot happen. And this can be multiple factors. The distance, we feel that a lot in some of these rural spots in Ontario and BC. poor weather conditions lately have been very troubling. Not for me, being in Arizona, but for you guys back in Ontario, not so great. Finances, always a big one for sure, 100%. And that's really hard. And that's really a hard one for me to even like talk through a client because I'm not really sure. I don't know the best way to make them feel better, you know? And then in person options being at capacity. That's another issue. On call and ER. These things can happen, all of them can happen at the same time. But we just want to make sure that even though these direct transfer criteria exist, telemedicine can still be an option. It may not be the absolute perfect option, but it is an option. A way to kind of explain this to clients, I've written up here, but essentially that, through the video consultation, our doctor can assess your pet's condition. There might be some medication, just to kind of get them through the interim. And the same case can be made for transfers after the consult. Same types of things can come through as roadblocks. You always just want to check with the DVM who saw that pet to see if there are any other options. Again, gold standard, yeah, let's send it. Maybe that is exactly what that patient absolutely needs, but it's not feasible. So saying something to the client like, unfortunately, in-person care is not available in your area, but I've let Dr. Smith know, and we're working on a plan for Fluffy until he or she can be seen in person. Reach out to the doctors, see, sometimes I'll check with them and just say, hey, I can't transfer this. Is telemedicine, like, can we do something through telemedicine? And they'll come up with something. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it's something. Because remember, if we didn't exist, they would have nothing. So at least we can do something. And I think that should make us all feel good. So, and then Mike, I'm going to let you take over for PetSmart, if that's cool.
Cool. Happy to. Yeah, so just a couple of reminders. A lot of this is just me reading off the slide. I don't know if there's any other way to put it. So yeah, if the staff member has put notes in the call, in their booking notes to call, then please call the store at the time of the appointment. We've had some feedback that what may be happening sometimes is that the veterinarians are jumping into the consult, waiting for someone to join, nobody joins, and then they're returning it to the queue, and then there's emails that are going to the PetSmart store. They finally see those emails. They go back. There's nobody there. There's this sort of back and forth. And so they're trying to tell people to call. So always just good to leave a reminder if you see it there. It doesn't hurt to just throw something into the private notes so the DVM can see it and say, hey, please call it. Put something in spot as well. Just trying to remind our vets. End of the day, this is probably only happening with network vets that aren't used to calling if nobody's there. So if you throw something in the private messages, if you see a PetSmart case that was self-booked or something, if you're booking it, of course, you can also just put in the main call notes to please call when they're ready to start the appointment. When booking or triaging, please ask for pet owner first name, last name, address, and phone number, as well as the RDVM if it is available. Put it in your call notes. Just important that we have that information on file. We are working towards making this a little easier and more streamlined by having it in the actual booking process for PetSmart as well. When possible, we also want to get the name of the staff member. It just helps us to know if we are calling who we should be referencing. That should be good, Sarah. Cool. And then for staff book consultations, so one thing that we're going to be doing is we made an update to make it so that the cases that come in for PetSmart when they're self-booked, they're going in under low priority. So this has been a little bit of a point of contention in the past for some, and I know it's come up a few times, but we had it defaulting to mid-priority. This was a contractual obligation that we had with PetSmart. As a result of the feedback from the team and a little bit back and forth, we've decided to have them default to low priority with the understanding that you guys as a team are going to be able to triage those and move it to mid-priority as needed. So basically, if a shift DVM is available within 10 minutes, please assign the consultation to that shift DVM so that they can see the case. If there's no DVM available within the next minutes, then mark it as mid-priority. And I'd probably say the last part, we probably don't need to send, we could send a message, I guess, because they're not going to get a notification. We can. It won't hurt, I guess. So we can move it right to mid-priority after at that point. Still triage self-booked. I think that stays the same. And the 10-minute rule does not apply to exotics consultation, so just be aware of that. But we can assign them if we have an exotics DVM on shift. So this is just meant to keep our shift DVMs busy if they are available to see those cases. Now, I just want to remind as we talk about this that it is important to move these into mid-priority. Again, we still do have a contractual obligation to do so. So if we don't think that they can be seen relatively quickly, please do move them to mid-priority.
And Mike, this is something I think our leads can kind of take a look at and just kind of keep
Yeah.
track of. I think would not be a bad idea. Just make sure they're not sitting there.
Yeah, that's perfect. And just so you guys understand too, why we say send a message in Slack, it's because if something goes into low priority, then no notification was sent to our whole network. So that message does make sense. Are there any questions there? I think I saw some people come unmuted.
It was just
Oh,
I just
um,
I just wanted to add that we do have a time limit on some of these consultations because of the nature of the consultation, and the pet parent will be coming to the store to pick them up. So that's important just to remember that when we're looking at that 10-minute timeline and getting them out to the network if necessary.
awesome. And that covers us.
Yeah, thanks for that, Amy. So, another thing we wanted to talk about today was just kind of call etiquette, things like dead air, distractions, background noise. Always remember when you're on these calls with clients, they can't see what we're doing, right? Once we're no longer speaking, they may automatically think that the call is disconnected. I'm sure you have literally just been silent for a few seconds. Somebody's like, "Are you still there?" Because they can't see you. They're not, they know that they're calling an after-hour service, not a regular vet hospital, so they're concerned that the call may have dropped. So, big thing we want to avoid is dead air. And how do you avoid dead air? I don't have a great way to do it. How I do it is exactly what I put on here. Anytime the client gives me a piece of information, I just kind of acknowledge it. I might repeat it back to them or say, "Okay, perfect. Thank you for that." I'm just typing that in. If I'm pulling up hospital information, like from the portal, like the hospital card, I'll say, "Okay, I'm just pulling up your clinic's information. Just bear with my computer a second here." And then when you're going through the booking screen, this I find a lot during training. I'm not training currently, but I have found during training is there will be silence. And I know you're just clicking buttons, but usually I'll just say something like, "Okay, Jane, yep, so I'm just finishing the booking here. I've got a couple more things to mark off." Just kind of keep them engaged. Lori made a great point. Talk about the breed. If somebody calls about a pug, I'm going to talk to them. You know, um, gauge the client. If they seem like they're pretty chill and joking around and stuff, talk to them. They're a human being just like you. Don't be scared of them. I know when they're stressed out, it's harder for sure, but just keep reassuring them that you're there to help them, that you're working as quickly as you can. You just need this information. Thank you so much for giving me this information. I know it's easier said than done. Asking them if you could just have, one moment to look up things, telling them why you're putting them on hold so they're not sitting on hold, just being like, "What's happening?" Just make sure you're always kind of communicating what you're doing with the client. And I know it's hard. I've had times too where the client's really stressed out and I'm stressed out because the patient is not doing well. We just have to make sure that we minimize these because our calls will go so much smoother. Mike, I don't know if you want to interject anything. I'm just reading some things in the chat.
No, I think you aced it, sir. It's perfect.
Um, Letting the owner know that you're just making some final notes, that you're just going to be 1 second. I just need a moment to come up with the next step. These are all great, guys. Anything that just kind of tells them what you're doing, because again, they don't know, they don't know what you're doing. They can't see you, right? So the more we can do that, the less dead air. And there's a fine line, of course. You can have a second of dead air. It's okay. You don't have to talk nonstop like I do through these meetings. You can take a break for a while. Okay.
It's definitely okay for there to be dead air, and there's obviously like there's times where it's appropriate, difficult medical cases, patients not doing well, patients passing away, situations like that. Like we're not asking you to make small talk in those times, but
100%.
obviously you guys can recognize what the right and appropriate opportunities are for that.
Yeah. And if
My,
anybody wants somebody to listen to a call and assess their dead air, I'm going to throw Kristen in here and remind everybody that
Mhm.
she does QA. I don't know, Kristen, is that you talking? I'm sorry if I just stepped on your toes. I was just going to
That's
say that
okay. I
I
can
was
say it after.
okay. I was going to say that, if you want her to assess one of your calls for things like dead air and anything we talked about, just anytime, she can do it anytime. And I can too, but that's her bag, and I'll just put
I'm
that plug
here.
in
I'm
there.
here.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was just going to mention to you, just a reminder that I still am hearing that when we place clients on hold, we're not telling them why. We're just saying, "Hey, can I place you on hold?" I just courtesy if we could say, "Hey, I'm just going to check on this. I'll be right back," or just a reminder. Let them know. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, super important. Even if it's something simple like you're literally just going to look for the closest clinic. That's all you have to say, and then they know. Thank you for that, Kristen. Amy, do you want me to start this and you take over?
Sure.
Another thing with working from home and, call etiquette, background noise. What causes background noise? Lots of things. We've got our kids, not my kids, but we've got kids. We've got we've got a barking dog.
I was gonna try to play these sound effects as we went through each one.
I was thinking it
I'm
was
not,
eight.
I'm not gonna be fast enough to do that.
Oh, there
There
you
you
go.
go.
There's a good
That was
one.
Louise.
That was absolutely phenomenal. That was great.
That's great.
Good
And
timing.
TV music, I mean, I can't have no noise. I can't sit in a silent office. So when I'm not on a call, I do have Spotify. I just pause it when I take, obviously, a call. We have to always think of if you were the person calling in and you heard all of this background noise when you're stressed about your animal. My first thought would be, is this person actually paying attention to me? Are they listening to their kid? Are they pointing to their dog, shh, be quiet? Are they listening to Breaking Bad in the background? So it's just things we always want to think about. And, I know it's hard in some areas that when I don't have kids again, but I do have a dog who's reactive. She will bark. I keep her locked out of my office for a very good reason. And she's just a pug. Her bark isn't that loud, but I just think about it from my end if I was calling in. And I'm going to hand it over to Amy to kind of finish up.
Sorry, I lost my mouse. So, what are some things that we can do to help to create a quiet workspace? So, working from home certainly presents a new set of challenges, and there's lots of possible distractions, as Sarah mentioned. Spouses, roommates, or other family members, our children, our pets, visitors, obligations and chores, and then neighborhood noise. So, trying to set some boundaries and rules for when you're working and enforcing them with the people that you live with is really important. Try closing a door to your workspace if you can, letting your family members know when you're starting work. Is important, and I know that some of these things are easier said than done. I have a large family, guys, and it has taken some time for everyone to get into the groove of, you know, mom's working, and so everybody get out of her space. Noise canceling headphones certainly help. They don't eliminate everything, but investing in noise canceling headphones can help. And asking other family members to help you to care for your children, take care of your chores, etc., also can be helpful. You remember, although we're at home, we're dedicating this time for work. Another thing that you can do is add a sign to your workspace to indicate that you're working, and I do that when I am working away from home in a smaller shared space with my family in the summer months. I do put something up saying that I'm working and not to disturb. And then another thing that we can do is look at the times that we're choosing our shifts. And so, the majority of my workday is when my husband and my children are not home, and so that makes it very easy to have an undistracted environment. And so maybe looking at times that are quieter in your home and better for you to take shifts can be helpful as well. Um, Sarah, are you moderating the chat on the side here?
There's some good ideas here. So, Nancy has a sign on her door when it's closed. Rebecca actually has a whiteboard with shift times outside her door, which I thought was kind of neat. Or living alone, Allie. That's great. I think we should all just live alone. Just dump your children, your spouse, and your animals.
Allie,
Just live alone as a hermit. That sounds great.
perfect.
That's good. But yeah, I do know it's hard. Like when I'm in Arizona, I have my own office and I just live with one other person. But yeah, when I'm at home, I'm downstairs in my basement. And my father will come down and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Working." Shoo. Like, so I get it. But we just have to always be cognizant of noise. Noise is hard because sometimes I think clients don't know that we're in Ontario half the time, right? They think they're calling a call center on the other side of the country. So a whole bunch of hustle and bustle in the background can ruin the experience when they're already having a rough day. So yeah, a she shed. Yeah, I want one of those. It's on my wish list. And I'll just work outside. Never be in the house. Amy, you can come. I'll set you up a desk. You can come visit.
Thank you.
And honestly, if anybody has any other input, just you can come on microphone too. I think this is a really important discussion. I know we talk about protocol and transfers and bookings and triage and everything, but I think this is something that we're not overlooking, but I think isn't always at the top of our minds, and I do think it's very important. So
I think sometimes if a noise does happen, just acknowledging it to the client can go a long way. When I lived at the apartment, Rocky and I, like his crate was in the same room as me. He usually just relaxes and sleeps through the whole shift. But he got up and decided to have a drink, and he's a very loud drinker. And I had no idea if that would come through the phone or not. And I just said, "I'm so sorry if you hear this. My dog just decided to have a very loud drink." And the client was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And that was that. So I think just not ignoring it, and just letting the client know, "I'm so sorry for the disruption." I think they at least know that we're aware and we're trying to get under control.
that's a really good point, Sabina. Yeah, for sure. Especially a pet. I think like they'd be like, "Oh, what kind of dog is it?" Like maybe
Yeah,
kind of put them at ease a little bit. But yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I think that's a really good point to make for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, and I was on a call with somebody, and I guess they were working from home because they were. The thing was tech support from a computer one day, and their dogs started to bark, and so I was like, "Oh, what kind of dogs do you have?" So yeah, especially if it's a pet related, you're right. Then at least it gives you a common ground to be like,
Yeah.
to talk about your pets together
Well, I don't
a
know
little
about
bit.
you guys, but I've had clients apologize for their
Yeah.
dogs barking during our
Yes.
calls. I'm like, you do realize what I do, right? I'm like, no, no, that's fine. Or like the kitten screaming in their ear because it's on their head wanting dinner or something like that. Like, I think we can absolutely be a little more transparent about those things, but just obviously not wanting to have like three dogs having a big wrestling match, screaming and barking and all that stuff. But yeah, acknowledgement I think is a good thing for sure. Speed, I agree. Oh,
Right.
that's
It
great.
sucked. It sucked. It was like soaked into the floor by the time my 30-minute meeting was done.
And you
I
just have
was
to keep looking at it at the corner of your eye, knowing it's right there. That
It
sucks.
smelled bad. So I was just looking at me and I couldn't do anything.
That's what you get for booking him 400 appointments.
Yeah,
It's
I
just,
should have booked him an appointment at that time. Yeah.
oh God. All right. Anybody have anything else? Because if not, I'm going to hand it back to Amy for the fun part of the meeting. That's all fun, depending on your point of view, I suppose. But
Wow, we're speedy tonight.
Quick. Good.
Okay. You can share my screen. We had get there so I can see it. 34 entries this month. Congratulations to everyone who is on the wheel. Shuffle them up. Our winner this month is Taylor. Congratulations, Taylor. Taylor had 4 ballots this month. Thanks, Taylor. I'll be in touch with details on your prize.
Congrats, Taylor. Shauna, did you have something that you wanted to mention as well?
she just posted it. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it? You good?
Oh, I'm reading. Yeah, yeah. I'm a very slow reader. Sorry, guys. My brain's slow. Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah. So we're thinking like common phrases and suggestions, tips for things to say on the phone.
I can do that. I can make that up.
We call it. Any suggestions for a name for that channel?
Well, we had a document a long time ago called Talk Tracks.
Talk tracks. Nice.
We can come up with something better. Ask Bianca. She came up with Smart Vent.
Sorry.
Uh, yeah, we'll come up with something. That's a good idea, Shauna. I like that. Because sometimes I cannot remember what I said. Somebody would be like, "Oh, what did you say that sounded that got the client to be so calm?" And I'm like, "I don't remember." Sometimes it just comes out. So having somewhere to write down would be helpful for sure. There'll still be spots in the articles in the resource center where ongoing things are, but yeah, I think a little collaborative channel is kind of a cool idea. And obviously, yeah, I think just posting them probably is the easiest. I'll just say when XYZ I say I've said this or something like that. That's cool.
Yeah, we can probably do talk tracks. I think that makes sense. Sarah, we can make that as a private channel just so that
Mhm,
DVMs aren't getting into it. And we could just add that to your onboarding list and add
mhm.
everybody to it as
Yeah,
needed.
for sure. I was gonna assume private just because
Yeah,
it's not that they
that's
can't join, it's just they don't need to,
yeah,
and that's just one more channel for them to get annoyed
yeah,
by. So yeah. Mhm.
exactly. Well, any questions from the team? Anything else? You feel free to unmute or put it in the chat.
I was having some issues with the magic links expiring. Was anybody else having that issue, or was it just me? I know.
Was it already clicked on or not clicked on at all?
No, not clicked on at all. Like I would send the client a brand new link, and the second she would click on it, it said it was expired. And I had that happen with a few clients. And I actually, the only way I got them into video was to do a text link send because the emails just kept expiring.
Mike, you got anything? Because I don't.
I'm not sure. No, if you guys keep seeing it happen, let me know. But I mean, there's the only thing that'll cause it to expire is I think 2 hours, or if that individual has received a link after that one. Basically, it's only the most recent link that works. So I'm not sure. There were a couple this week. There were a couple instances where the systems were down. We had a third-party provider that went down, and that might have caused some issues with those. It could have been related. So
Mm,
just let me know
okay.
if it keeps happening. Yeah, this week was a bit of a tough one for third parties going down, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So just so everybody knows, it's only the most recent link will remain functional. It's either that or time. Yeah. Um, for Melissa's point in the call reviews, I think this is probably more for Kristen and Sarah. If I'm understanding correctly, if you guys find anything, just sending them as they come up instead of sending them all in one wave of feedback. I think that.
Yeah, it's I haven't got any or anything like that, but I'm always wondering, I'm like, am I doing like this okay or that okay and stuff? And I'm always wondering if I'm gonna get like an email of like 8 things I need to work on all at once kind of thing. Because I find, when we're dealing with emergencies, we do what comes naturally to us, right?
Mhm.
So if we're saying a word consistently, or there's like dead space kind of time wise or whatever, if we're constantly doing something, even if it's like, if someone notes one thing on a call, just be like, just keep note of your quiet time, or just keep note of this word kind of thing. But yeah, just little things like that or whatever. But I haven't got any suggestions, so I'm assuming my calls are okay. But you don't always take note when you're like like dealing with an emergency call. Like it's in the back of your mind, and you need to be acknowledging it. Um, but a lot of the times, when you're stressed as well too, or trying to keep the owner calm and stuff like that too, it might not always come natural to say certain words or to do things as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is probably more my topic too of reviewing everybody. I mean, there are just so many calls, right? I can only listen to so many, and I do for sure review. Typically I do send out as much information as I can. No news is good news, typically for the most. If I do find anything that's wrong, I will, of course, send messages and let you know. But if you like Sarah said too, if there's any calls that you're like, oh boy, I just, I really didn't feel that one went down, like please send them to me because there are so many calls. I do listen to a lot, but um, I only have 40 hours a week to listen to 7 days worth of calls on a 24-hour rotation, right? So please point them out to me and I will definitely review, that specific call and give you all the feedback I can too as well.
Okay, with that, if there's ever a call, like usually if I am dealing with a call and something comes up with like the owner's upset or something didn't go smoothly, I usually send an email to management. Now, should I, unless it's like a very angry client versus can I just have Kristen listen to this call? Like I had Shauna listen to one call where I was like, can you listen to this call and see if it needs to go to management if the owner is just upset? And there's literally, we gave them all choices and they're just angry and hung up. Or should I send this to Kristen saying, Kristen, can you review this call? So I went to Shauna with that one just to say, what should I do on this one? The ones that I'm like, this one needs to go to management and I'll email it to management. But what are our protocols for those as to who should get what if we kind of have a questionable call?
I think for the ones that you're just questioning if you're running through proper protocol and those sorts of things, you can send them to me. If the client is angry and furious and upset with the smart vet procedure, then that should to me go to management. And then management too will sometimes come back to me and say, hey, can you review this call for me? So, but if the client is for sure angry, I would say send that to management. But if you're just concerned about your protocol or what you said or time frames and those sorts of things, by all means, just send it to me. If it's just something that you're more curious about, yeah, send it to me. And as far as Nancy asked you, what do you want to send? I mean, if you send me, typically, if you send me the call log number, that's usually probably the easiest for me to find it, and then I can pull up the call recordings and things like that off of the call log number. I mean, you're welcome to send me the client name and the phone number and all that great stuff too. But if you have a call log number, that'll work just as great. Just be like, hey, Kristen, can you review call log number 8675, whatever it is, and then I will definitely get back to you. Was that answer the question okay, Melissa?
Yeah, it does
Okay.
completely and stuff that way. There was I had one case where one of my doctors had asked to, just touch up base for a recheck on a patient. It was a dog that was really like lethargic and stuff like that as well. So it was to pop back on video and check the status of the dog, and whether or not we were going to transfer or just have the owner continue to monitor. Like what I said to the vet, I said, I'm not really comfortable because if the patient, because I didn't see them the first time, so if the patient isn't as stable or what the owner is telling me, or like they were just gonna, I don't know, I recommend to continue to monitor and something happens to that dog, then it falls on me, right? Like if I felt that the dog was stable and stuff that way. So I asked the vet to pop onto video and just assess the dog as opposed to me doing it just for liability. Is that okay? I felt kind of bad doing it, but I'm like, I know the vet saw the dog first and I didn't feel that I could properly assess the dog over a video chat. I haven't been trained in that. And yes, I've been a tech for 23 years, but I didn't see the dog for the first video. So the vet popped on and did the recheck consult and stuff. Which was great. But I felt kind of awkward for a second there. And I'm like, but this will fall on me, right? If I say this dog does not need to go to in-person care and the dog passes away that night kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody else can jump into like Mike or Sarah or whatever, or whoever's here, but I don't think that was wrong. If you're not comfortable, making that decision, then absolutely, that's the DVMs are there for. And if needed, a reminder too that the clients do have that 24-hour recheck time too as well. So, if the consultation's already been closed, they're calling back, you're still not, you're like, I'm not sure, it sounds like it's stable, but I would really feel more comfortable if the doctor just did a reval eval. If that's what it's there for, by all means use it, right? Our doctors are there, and especially the clients, we want to make sure that they're comfortable too as well. And because ultimately they're the ones at home staring at their pets. So if they're not comfortable, then getting them on the video with the doctor sometimes is very, very helpful.
Perfect. No, that sounds good. We did have a
Yeah.
question earlier this week where, like on shift, when we did 2 consults with 2 different cats with 2 different issues, and then the owner called back within that 24-hour window, but it was a different concern. So that's a new consult, right? Because the
Yes.
owner was very upset that we just assumed it was the same concern, but it was actually a different concern from what it was from the initial consult. So trying to explain to the owner that it was a whole different consult at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's a different concern, it is a new consultation. And the same goes for when we're booking multiple pets, right? If the client's calling with multiple pets and it's different concerns, then that's full exams for both. But if both pets are having the same concern, then obviously you get that multi-pet discount. But same as in practice, right? Like book a whole new consultation for an ear appointment if somebody came in for a UTI 2 days prior, right? It's the same thing.
I was going to say I don't know, I don't think everybody would feel the same way, but there are moments where when we take that initial call, if we actually had the client on video sometimes just to be able to assess the pet, I almost like, as opposed to like the owner sending in a video or a picture and stuff. There's some cases where I'm like, if I could just have them go on video with me right now, it would be so much easier to triage this dog.
Well, and you know what, Melissa, by all means, like if you can get them into doing the virtual consultation and you get them onto video and your assessment is completely different when you've physically got them onto video, cancel it and do a transfer. That's not going to hurt anything. Like if all of a sudden you've got them onto video when you're doing the test run, right?
Right.
And you have them do like, hey, let's take a look at Fluffy and let's see what's going on. And, do you mind if I just really take a look at those gums because we really weren't sure on the color? However, if you find it in video that scenario has changed, you still have the right to transfer. If
Okay,
at
I
any
never
point,
thought of that actually, but
yeah.
yeah, I think that would be great. Rebecca seems to do it as well too, as opposed to just kind of like making sure the video works and stuff. So there's definitely those cases I would really think that that triage situation would make it a lot easier to visually see the dog or
Yeah.
cat. Yes, definitely wouldn't be diagnosing by just
No.
like sometimes like the lethargy or like what is actually going on with the dog. Sometimes owners are not exaggerating, but being a little bit more worried than what they're describing. And then I had one case where it really didn't sound that bad. And then when the vet claimed the consult, which wasn't a long wait, the dog was non-responsive. And I was like, that is not what the owner had displayed in the call notes and stuff, like when they initially took the call. So I was just like, oh my God, like if I had maybe seen that dog initially, kind of thing. But it was progressing so quickly to like non-responsive as well. And that's just the case. But yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes too, seeing them in video will change our priority level too, right? It might change something that we thought was low, when the owner was describing it, and then when we see them on video, it's like, oh no, we need to get this seen either right now on video or I'm transferring, right? So that sometimes can change the priority level with seeing them.
Yeah, no, I'll add that that's okay to happen as well, Melissa. If something present, you can only work with the information you have. We're not gonna not gonna look down on that if you made the inappropriate judgment on information that wasn't available to you. Like those are factors that we can't really consider, and so that's okay. It's going to happen. I think go back to how we started as a service. When we started as a service, every case booked with the doctor, and the doctor made the decision. That's actually how we started. I think it's okay to think of like, this addition of you guys is a huge improvement on that. But if we're defaulting back to that original model, that's okay as well. The doctor's going to get on the video and say it needs to go, and that's totally fine as well. It will happen sometimes, right? So shouldn't be a problem. There's a question here about PetSmart 2Pocket pets. Do they need 2 separate appointments? I haven't been in part of many of those discussions. I don't know, Amy or Sarah from the DVM. Amy probably from a DVM side. Have we been saying that that's 1 appointment?
So there is going to be way more information coming on this in the very near future. Just want to make sure all the logistics are sorted out for you. But we're working on a multi-pet pricing for the same issue. So, for example, we've seen a lot of very young, hamsters with a same issue that. And they're all housed together, and so we'll have an SOP together for you guys. We're just in the final stages of getting it together. I'd hoped to have it for tonight, but it didn't happen. So at the current time, if they're the same issue, um, 2 pets, you can continue what we've been doing, which has been a consult and an additional pet, I believe.
I have one more question that's come up that I think would probably be good for the whole team, if I can jump in. Good.
For sure. Yeah, just letting you know we have a hard stop at 8. That's all.
Yes, yes. It's a quick question. It's basically about an angry client when the client is upset, yelling at us, and they go ahead and hang up. We've offered them services, we've given them the options, and they just scream and yell at us and hang up. What is our next protocol? Are we to call them back and allow them to hang up on us again? Are we to just make notes and leave it at that? Or how would you like that handled?
So what's the outcome with the client? What did they do? So they hang up
So
on
the
us?
client,
What
yeah.
happened?
So we provide the protocols, we provide their options, and the clients become very upset, yell at us, and just hang up on us.
Yeah, I don't know, Sarah, if we've had anything that goes against what I'm about to say, and just jump in if we've taken a different stance. But in this moment, when I hear that question, I think that's the owner's decision. So we write our notes, make sure that it's very clear the outcome of that call, and we move on to the next thing.
Okay, that's kind of what I was agreeing with too. I feel like that if the client is we shouldn't have to maybe go back into that angry client scenario.
No,
we by
don't
calling
need
them
to.
back. Okay.
Yeah, the instant someone gets into anger, like they're an unreasonable client, and yeah, it's okay to just move on to the next thing. Yeah,
and I've had a lot too sometimes with those clients where when they get upset with me and hang up on me, and then they'll call back in maybe 30 or 40 minutes once they've had a moment to collect their thoughts, and then they're not so angry. Sometimes they're worse and sometimes they're better, but yeah, I feel like it could go both ways. Once people have a moment to just step back, breathe, realize that we're not the bad guy here, and sometimes they will call back. And
yeah, and I see a few really good comments in the chat. I think texting them after with their options. Personally, I'd say maybe we should avoid that. We might just perpetuate a problem if we have an upset client by contacting them further, and we might be opening a can of worms where they can now text us and angrily text us. And so I think maybe let's just leave it at, they can always call back, right? Like they have the ability to call us back if they really want to pursue some avenue. And so we'll leave it to them. But Bridget brings up a good point. Sometimes it's just the call dropped, but I think we can usually make a good, I'm going to hang up, you hangs up, very different story than just all of a sudden abruptly ends. If you have any doubt, call them back and say, hey, just calling you back in case the call dropped, and they'll let you know. I've had those calls too. I remember getting some of those, and I wasn't sure. I'm like, I don't know. Did they hang up? Did the call end? Did it abruptly stop because it cut out? I called back and said, hey, just checking in case the call dropped. And I think that's fine. If you have any doubt, you can always call back.
In my experience, it's pretty darn clear that they've hung up on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't call them back. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I have told RVTs they are not. And I just want to reiterate this just in the same wavelength that you do not have to take any abuse from clients, 100%. So no, you do not need to call them back. But yes, I agree with Mike and Bridget. If you think it was disconnected, a quick call, and worst cases are going to yell at you and hang up again. And it's
or they won't answer the phone.
Or they won't answer, and it's gonna be a quicker call because they're like, "Why are you calling me again?" Click. So.
On somewhat the same topic, if they're yelling at us but they're not hanging up on us and they're swearing at us, can we give them a warning that if they continue to do so, then we will hang up on them? And if they continue to do so, can we hang up on them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you can hang up if you feel that it's within reason, right? Like if there's verbal abuse or what have you, obviously you are allowed to hang up in those instances. It's the advantage of being remote versus being in a reception area with an angry client, right? it's much easier to walk away from that conversation. So
Yeah.
definitely. And just want to like mention, like, for those of you that are texting back with options, it speaks volumes to like the level of empathy you have for clients and patients. And but I just want to make sure that you guys aren't, putting yourself in an awkward situation with those clients. Let them call back if they'd like to pursue care. And I'm seeing a lot of comments, people, when they call back or you call them back, potentially they calm down. So hopefully that's going to happen in most of those cases. So cool. I think that's Amy and I are going to have to jump out. We've got another call, so I think we're going to have to call it there. But certainly, I don't know if Kristen or Sarah, if you want to hang around for a couple minutes in case people do have questions, but I think that probably wraps it up.
Yeah, that's the end, guys. We really made good time. We had lots of time for questions, which is not like
Yeah.
this at all. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, Nancy left a point there. Please check it out too. If you do hang up, just send a management email, just so that it helps to arm us when we get a reach out from a hospital, that we're already aware of that situation. So,
yeah,
okay,
100%.
awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great night. It was great chatting with everyone, and thanks for all the great discussion.
Yeah. I'm going to stop recording, but yeah, I'm obviously on shift till 9. So if anybody has any questions, I'm still here. Bye, everybody.